the previous videos, we have mentioned about the literature review, normally started by searching and collecting for the source of references. You can search for the journals papers from the bibliographic database or find a relevant journals paper and search all the references in the reference list. In these videos, we're going to give you some directions how can you find the references based on the reference list given by a relevant journals papers. To start with, you need to find a journals paper which is very closely related to your research work. Then you look at the reference list at the back of the journals papers, and you will try to find all the references listed in the reference list. In the reference list, normally the details will be given in a particular format. For example, Harvard, APA, IEEE, numbered system, and etc. The difference in terms of the format was based on the requirements of the relevant journals. Whichever the format it is, the importance details of the relevant publications are normally given incomplete. Therefore, you should have no problem searching for the relevant papers based on the details given. Normally, in the reference list, the informations given include the authors, titles, journals or publisher, years of publications, the volume of the journal, the issue of the journals, as well as the pages of that particular papers within that volume and issue. This is an example of the details given in the reference list. It normally started with the list of the authors. For this example in particular, there are 5 authors there. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The authors are normally given in the mode of the surname or the family name. For example, X. Wu. Wu will be the surname or the family name, and the X here will be the first name of the author. By looking at the numbers of the surnames and the family names, you will know that how many authors are there. Next one will be the titles of the paper. Normally, when you search for the keywords, the keywords helps you to find the relevant titles. And then next one is the journals or publisher. The details of the volumes and issues will be given. However, in this case, the issue is not given. It's only given with the volume of the paper. The years of publications is also given. In this case, it is 2019. And the pages here refers to the papers within that particular volume. Then from the reference list, you can either search for the titles or you can also search for the authors. Let's say now you would like to trace this paper. You can simply search for the relevant titles and you are easily obtain those papers. Normally, good journal publisher, they have their journals paper properly indexed, and it is easy for you to trace the relevant papers as long as you know the titles or the volume. These are several websites of publishers that you can refer for engineering related research, which has been mentioned in the previous slides. Now that you have already know the details given in the reference list, this is how searching from the reference networks work. First, you locate a relevant journals papers. Within that particular journals papers, there are quite a number of references listed there. You will need to search for the relevant papers one by one, and then from the list of the reference there, locate the second papers which is this, which you find it to be very relevant to your study. And then you're going to search all the reference lists given in the second paper. And then from your second papers, you find another journal papers which is very relevant to your study, which in this case is Journal 4. You're going to look into the reference list given in the Journals 4 and start searching for all the journals papers in the Journals 4. You will repeat the process for the other journals papers within the list, and this eventually forms a spider web or a network of publications, and in no time that you will be able to locate nearly all the relevant papers within the field of study. If you observe the network of the publications, you will find some journals papers are very popularly being cited in the list of the reference papers. Most likely, these journals papers will contribute significant contributions within the field of study, or it could be the ancestors of that technology, somebody that have made a significant breakthrough, or somebody who have revolutionized the relevant technology. By observing these spider webs here, it's easy for you to identify whichever papers which give significant contributions and widely acknowledged by the research community within the field of study. Then what you're going to do later, you might need to spend some time to read in details on that relevant publications, and you don't want to have yourself missing one of the significant contributions in that particular field of study. After you have done all this spider web here, then you will compile a list of the publications which is relevant to your study. This is how you start searching and collecting for the sources. And your next question is, this spider web seems to have no ends. Whenever you find a new publications, there are quite a number of lists of publications there. The more you search, the more papers you can find. Then the next question is, when do you need to stop this searching for the relevant papers? Normally, I would recommend that you stop your searching until reaching the point of saturations. What does it mean by reaching the point of saturations? It is when you search for more journals papers, and based on the list of the journals papers given, there are very limited or no new publications that you have already acquired. With that, the compiled list can no longer expand, or the compiled list of the journals papers expand at a very slow rate, and even the expansions of the compiled list here, the additional references are not quite commonly being cited in most of the journals papers. That means these publications is quite unique or quite rare within the web of the network. Then you are likely reaching the point of saturations. In other words, you are reaching the point where there are no new publications that you can find by using the search from the reference network. Next, based on the compiled list here and observing from the web of the search, you can identify the center of reference. It means that there are several reference papers are very popularly cited by most of the journals papers related to the field. Theoretically, you should have included the relevant papers, and failure to cite relevant papers here, it will indicate that you might not be able to properly identify the center of reference. This might give a perception by the examiner that you might not have thoroughly searched for the relevant publications within the field, if your examiner is also actively involved with the relevant field. Next, you can arrange the journals papers in the chronological orders in order to observe the development of the field of study. If you wish to demonstrate the development of the technology within the field of study, the dates of publications can be a good reference to you. However, bear in mind that for a good research work to be published in good journals papers, normally it takes several years. You might need 2 to 3 years to complete the work, and probably at least 1 year to get the papers to be published. Nevertheless, you can still take the publication dates as a good reference to see the development of the technology. And also, you have to bear in mind that the pace of the technological development country by country may not be consistent. Some countries may be quite advanced in the technology, while some other countries are still at the development stage. Even in the same years of publications, the researchers from different countries may proceed with the development of the technology at different stages. One at the cutting edge, another one is still at the initial stage. Sometimes you may have difficulty to identify the growth of the technology due to this inconsistent pace of the publications by different countries. But this shouldn't affect your ability to identify the development of the technologies. Normally, we start observing the new things and the breakthroughs achieved within the field of the study, which at that particular instance, it is already at the cutting edge. You can still have an idea of the evolutions of the technology. And because of this, you might going to observe some reviews papers when they discussing about the development of the technology. The sequence might vary slightly, but the overall trends and the development are still in the right directions. Therefore, there is no right and wrongs regarding what they have planned or discussed. It is a manner of storytelling, and such technological development help us to gauge the current status, and also possibility help us to make some predictions in the future trends. Another way is that you can search for the relevant papers is by searching through the author's profiles. Normally, a researcher has their own field of expertise, and sometimes in the good research work, there can be several publications obtained from their research study. And over the years, if the author is involved with another research works, normally the research work will not run too far from the existing research work. However, this will not restrict the researcher to explore new fields of studies. Just in case that the researchers is still actively involved in the relevant field of study, you can trace all the relevant papers from the author's profile. This is how you can do it. You search for an author which you found to be significant and have relevant works with yours. You can search through the Google citations. There should be a list of the publications under this author. Then you find the relevant groups of paper which is relevant. And you might want to look into their co-authors also, as their co-authors is also participating in the relevant research. And then you search through their profile and find the relevant group of papers. And then you find new co-authors, and that searching process proceeds. It is also noted that the co-author may also from different institutions due to the collaborations between the institutions. Therefore, you might want to search the relevant institutions also. for their relevant colleagues who are also participating in the relevant field of study. Again, this process will stop until you reach to a point of saturation. You can combine the list of publications into the compiled list based on the reference network, as your ultimate goal here is to find as many relevant papers as possible. And then when you reach to the point of saturation, you may stop the search and you will proceed for the following step of the literature review.